You know, that experience also was formative in my lifetime. Because you can imagine being 15 and going through this and trying to sort it out. At the same time, you're worried about playing sports and other distractions that 50-year-olds are concerned about. But trying to understand that and seeing him go through those difficult points. So it made me very open to changes that were going on in the world at the time. So when Ronald Reagan came to the fore and had a whole different vision about how our country should order society in terms of the federal structure, federal-state relations, and our freedoms here in communities, among families. I mean, that was something that really resonated for me. I was the first one in our family to become a Republican. And certainly many factors went into that, but among those was watching my dad go through that experience and being frustrated for him. Because Dad was a good old-fashioned Democrat, and he wasn't coming off that. You know, he had supported McGovern, he had supported Carter, and I remember 1980 just shaking my head and saying, you know, Jimmy Carter's a decent guy. This country has just got, it's not working. It's not working out. And, you know, Dad stood firm in that year, I got to tell you. But every year after that, he voted for Ronald Reagan in the re-election. He never changed his party affiliation, as far as I know. He went to his grave a Truman Democrat, but he felt that the Democratic Party had left him in terms of their policies. And for me, it was a choice. Also considering my view of history, my read of history, deep reading of the founding era, and of the kind of country that we were founded upon. We were an exceptional nation at inception, different from any other, and you know that. You look at the Declaration of Independence, and we just celebrated that last month, and it's a wonder to me when I pull up that document. It's one page. I mean, it's a parchment, it's big, but it's one page. And the simplicity of that document, the clarity, and the beauty of that document. And we're all created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure those rights, governments are instituted among men. That's why we have governments, to secure our natural rights, with their just powers coming from the consent of the governed. We take that for granted now, I think, too often. That was a radical idea. That was a radical idea. That, you know, this is a time when kings and queens had divine right to rule over us. And we said, we don't need that. And we don't need an aristocracy. We can have a limited form of government and live free. And then you look at our, we went through some angst there. I don't want to paper over that. First of all, we fought a war for 7 years against the greatest superpower known to mankind at the time. And they underestimated us on every step of the way, and quite frankly, lost their patience with us, and then just went home. We call it victory, and it is victory. But they lost their patience with us. They said they take us for granted. They're going to beg for us to come back because it won't work. That whole, without a king and a queen, this system can't work. And then you look at, we went through a period, a few years, under the Articles of Confederation, where we had some issues as far as how we were going to relate to each other in the states. But when you look at our Constitution, and you look at the genius of it, in my view, the genius of the Constitution, because, the founders, and they went through a whole hot summer in Philadelphia about this. And what they ended up agreeing on is that you'll never, as hard as you may try, and as much as you want to try to find a virtuous leader, you're better off putting virtue in a system where ambition counteracts ambition. So we got a system that I think led to the greatest number of years of stability and freedom in the history of mankind. You had the Congress to check the president, you had the courts to check the Congress and the president, you had the Senate and the House to check each other, you had the states checking the federal government, you had the people with guns that could make sure that they could check the states and the federal government. The whole system was designed to prevent the accumulation and the centralization of power, with the belief that we could live free, that we could do that. That's incredible if you think about it, if you reflect on it. And, about 40 years later, when the Europeans were looking at this from the vantage point of the late 18 teens, it was an enigma to them how this was working.